The key clicked in the lock for the first time, and a warmth bloomed in my chest, like something had finally settled into place. 10 years. 10 years of instant noodle dinners, thrift store couches, and turning down every outing that cost more than a coffee. But now, at 32, I, Emma, stood in the doorway of my own home. The mortgage was signed, the deed bore my name, and no one could take this moment from me. The house wasn't grand, a simple two-bedroom in a quiet suburb, but it was mine. Stop gawking, Emma, you're letting the cold in, a Margaret's voice sliced through my thoughts. I stepped aside, letting her, my brother James, and his fiancée Lily cross the threshold into the living room. I'd invited them for dinner to mark the occasion, hoping maybe this time they'd see what I'd accomplished. Maybe this time they'd be proud. It's quaint, Lily said, her eyes scanning the room, lingering on the fireplace as if inspecting for flaws. Cozy, I suppose. Perfect for Emma, James chimed in, his voice carrying that familiar condescending edge he'd honed since we were kids. Not everyone needs a big place, right? I forced a smile. Kitchen's this way. I made your favorite, Margaret, chicken and mushroom bake. What a shame you bought this house, Margaret cut in, sinking into my new armchair like it was her own. We could have used that money for James's wedding. Her words landed like a punch. I froze, oven mitt still on, staring at her. What? Weddings are expensive, Emma, as she went on, barely glancing my way. James has been counting on family help. It's selfish to pour all that money into a house when your brother needs support. James shifted in his seat, looking uneasy. Margaret, we didn't ask her to. You shouldn't have to ask, as she snapped. Family supports family. That's how it works. I set the dish down with a thud. I saved for a decade for this house. 10 years, Margaret. And now you've got it, as she said, shrugging. But James only gets married once. This house isn't going anywhere. Lily perked up. We've been eyeing this stunning venue in the hills, perfect for the wedding. It's a bit over budget, but, as she trailed off, expectant, how much over? I asked, already dreading the answer. Only about $12,000, Lily said, as if it were trivial. Which is nothing compared to what you must have spent here. I looked at James, waiting for him to say something, anything. He was engrossed in his phone, avoiding my gaze. James? He glanced up. I mean, if you wanted to chip in, that'd be great. But no pressure. No pressure. Sure. I closed on this house 3 days ago, I said, voice tight. I have $500 in my account and a mortgage payment due in 2 weeks. You could take out a home equity loan, Margaret suggested, unfazed. That's what houses are for, building wealth for the family. I stared at the woman who'd raised me, who'd claimed to love me, now suggesting I leverage my future for my brother's big day. Dinner's ready, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We ate in strained silence. Lily snapped photos of her plate, likely for social media. James scrolled through his phone between bites. Margaret critiqued everything, the seasoning, the table setting, even the way I'd folded the napkins. This is really good, Emma, James said abruptly, like he'd just remembered to be polite. You should come over once we're married. Lily's an amazing cook. Lily smiled. I make this incredible grilled salmon dish, absolutely divine. Though we'll need a bigger dining table first. Ours only seats 4. Sounds nice, I said, slicing my chicken with unnecessary force. After they left, I stood in my kitchen, scrubbing dishes, replaying the evening. My mother had taken my proudest moment and turned it into a ledger of what I owed James. My brother had nodded along like it was perfectly reasonable, and Lily had spent the night pointing out every flaw in my home. I dried the last plate and placed it in my cupboard, in my kitchen, in my house. 3 days later, I woke to the sound of dripping water. The basement was a lake. Ankle deep in murky water, I watched my storage boxes drift like abandoned rafts. The basement, dry as a bone during the inspection, was now a disaster. I'm shutting off your main water line, the plumber said, wading past with his flashlight. This is bad. How bad? He knelt by the water heater, inspecting the pipes. Good news, it's not a burst pipe. Bad news, he traced a finger along a copper pipe. This didn't happen by accident. My stomach churned. What do you mean? Someone took a tool to this pipe. See these dents, this clean crack? He pointed with his flashlight. This was deliberate. I felt sick. You're sure? 25 years in the business. Pipes don't crack like this unless someone makes them. He stood, water dripping from his overalls. Got anyone who might want to mess with you? Margaret's words echoed. What a shame you bought this house. James's uneasy shifting. His refusal to meet my eyes at dinner. I need to make some calls, I said after the plumber left. I sat on my front steps, staring at the $7,500 repair estimate. Insurance might cover part of it, but an investigation would follow, especially if it was intentional. My phone buzzed. A text from James. Heard about your flood. That's rough. Let me know if you need anything. Heard about it? I hadn't told a soul. I checked our messages, my call log, nothing. So how did he know? My mind raced. When I bought the house, I'd been cautious, living alone for the first time. I'd installed security cameras in the main rooms and one in the basement by the water heater, just in case. With trembling hands, I opened the app on my phone. The footage from 2 nights ago showed nothing. But yesterday, at 10:32 a.m., the basement door creaked open. James descended the stairs. He glanced around, then pulled out his phone, speaking briefly. I couldn't hear the words, but his lips moved quickly. He walked straight to the water heater, like he'd studied a map. From his jacket, he produced a small wrench. I watched, heart sinking, as my brother struck the pipe, 3 precise hits, each one calculated. Water began to trickle out. He stepped back, surveyed his work, then spoke into the phone again. I could just make out the words, "It's taken care of." Then he left. I replayed the footage, each viewing cutting deeper. This wasn't random. It was planned. My phone rang. Margaret. Emma, darling, I heard about your basement. How awful, so soon after moving in. How did you hear about it? I asked, my voice sharp over the phone. A pause. James mentioned it. He's so worried about you, Emma. I haven't told James anything. Another pause, longer this time. Well, maybe Lily heard something. You know how gossip spreads. Margaret, I found the flood 3 hours ago. I've spoken to one person, the plumber. Emma, I don't like your tone, Margaret said, her voice tight. In my tone? I let out a hollow laugh. My basement is ruined, and somehow you and James knew before I told anyone. Don't be absurd, she snapped. We're your family. We care about you. Right. You care so much you think I should have given James my house money for his wedding. That's not what It's exactly what you said, Margaret. Verbatim. Silence stretched across the line. These things happen, Emma, as she finally said. Old houses have issues. Maybe this is a sign you weren't ready for home ownership. The nerve of it stole my breath. A sign? I'm just saying, if you can't handle repairs like this, maybe you should think about selling. James mentioned he might be interested in buying it from you. Family discount, of course. I hung up, staring at my phone, the paused video still showing James's face as he raised the wrench. My brother. My mother. They'd sabotaged my home and were now circling like vultures, ready to buy it cheap when I couldn't afford the fixes. I saved the footage to 3 devices, uploaded it to the cloud, and hid a USB copy in my nightstand. For the first time in days, a grim smile crossed my face. Sunday dinner at Margaret's followed the same old script, but I sat at her table knowing exactly who I was dealing with. Emma, you look exhausted, Margaret said, passing the roasted vegetables. All this house trouble must be wearing you down. I'm coping, I said, serving myself a spoonful of carrots as if nothing was wrong. James cleared his throat. I've been thinking about your situation. Maybe I could help out. Oh? I raised an eyebrow. Well, Lily and I are house hunting anyway, he said. If you wanted to sell, I could take it off your hands. No realtor fees. Lily nodded eagerly. It'd be perfect for us as a starter home. You'd be free of all those repair headaches. I chewed my roast slowly. That's so kind of you both. Family helps family, Margaret said, echoing her words from my dinner. Speaking of family, James added, we've expanded the wedding guest list. Lily's old college friends, some of my work buddies. It's going to be incredible. How wonderful, I said, keeping my tone neutral. I bet it'll be stunning. The only thing is, Lily jumped in, with more guests, we need a bigger venue, and catering costs are climbing. But it's worth it for our big day. James reached across the table, touching my hand. I know things are tight with the house, but if you could help out, even a little, it'd mean the world. I stared at his hand, the same one that had swung the wrench. How much are we talking? Maybe $18,000, Lily said, her voice hopeful. I know it sounds like a lot, but $18,000, I repeated, letting the number linger. You could get a home equity loan, Margaret suggested. Banks are practically throwing those at homeowners. Or, James said, his tone brightening, if you sold the house to me, you could use some of that cash for the wedding. 2 birds, 1 stone. I pulled my hand back and sipped my water. You know what's funny? I was just thinking how much I love that basement, even with the damage. James's fork froze midair. The basement? Yeah, it's got such charm. And the security camera down there caught some fascinating footage. The table went still. Security camera? Margaret asked, her voice tight. Yes. I installed them when I moved in. You can't be too careful. I smiled at James. The one by the water heater has a perfect angle. Lily frowned. Angle of what? Everything, I said simply. James set his fork down. Emma, what are you implying? Nothing at all. Just marveling at what cameras can catch these days. Every detail, every face, every intentional act. Margaret's face paled. You're being paranoid, honey. Am I? Because I've been getting odd calls from neighbors. Apparently, There's gossip about me being unhinged, resentful. Strange how it started right after my housewarming. People talk, James said, his voice strained. You can't control what they say. True, but you can control what you say and to whom. I took another bite of roast. This is excellent, Margaret. What's your secret? Emma, I don't like where this is going, Margaret said, and neither do I, but here we are. Lily glanced between us, confused. Maybe we should change the subject. Good idea, I said. James, how's work? Still in construction? Yeah, why? Just curious about your tools. You've always been good with a wrench. He shoved back from the table. I need some air. Sit down, Margaret snapped at him, then turned to me. Emma, whatever you think you know, I don't think anything, Margaret. I know exactly what happened. The question is, what are we going to do about it? You're being ridiculous, she said, but her hands trembled as she reached for her wine. Am I? Because my insurance company is very interested in my footage. They love clear evidence for claims. James sank back into his chair, heavy. Look, Emma, no, you look. I set my fork down and leaned forward. I worked 10 years for that house. 10 years of scrimping, eating cheap noodles, wearing clothes until they frayed. And you wrecked it because you wanted wedding cash. That's not, Lily started, it's exactly what happened. And now you're asking me to take out a loan for your party after you sabotaged my home. The room fell silent, save for the faint ticking of Margaret's kitchen clock. What do you want? She finally asked. I smiled, picking up my fork. Right now, I just want to enjoy this lovely dinner with my loving family. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is regarding your property standards complaint. Please call to discuss. I showed them the screen. Looks like someone filed a complaint about my property, trying to force a sale. I locked eyes with James. Any idea who do that? He wouldn't look at me. Well, I said, standing and grabbing my bag. This has been delightful, but I need to get home. I've got some very interesting calls to make. Clara's house smelled of rosemary and fresh scones. She opened the door before I could knock, like she'd been waiting. Well, look who's here, she said, pulling me into a warm hug. You sounded shaken on the phone. I need to talk to someone who won't lie to me. Her sharp eyes studied me, missing nothing. That bad? Her? Come in. I've just brewed tea. We settled in her cozy living room, on the same faded floral sofa she'd had forever. Clara poured tea from a delicate china set that probably cost more than my furniture. So, she said, leaning back with her cup, what's Margaret done now? How'd you know it's about her? Darling, you only get that look when it's your mother. I've seen it since you were a girl. I sipped my tea, unsure where to begin. Do you think I'm selfish for buying my house? Clara nearly spluttered. Selfish? For buying a home with your own hard-earned money? Margaret thinks I should have given the money to James for his wedding. Of course she does. Clara set her cup down with a clink. Let me guess, she said family helps family. Word for word. That woman's been using that line to manipulate people for decades. She tried it on me for James's college fund. Clara's voice turned sharp. Wanted $15,000, called it a family investment. I gave it to her, fool that I was. You know how much James thanked me? Not once. Because she never told him I paid Farobot system. I'm sorry, it looks like your message was cut off. Based on the context, you seem to want me to continue modifying the story, keeping the names Emma, James, Lily, and Margaret, and possibly incorporating Aunt Clara, previously Aunt June. Since the provided text ends mid-sentence, I'll pick up where it left off, continuing the story with the same Anglo-Saxon naming, tone, and style, while avoiding plagiarism by rephrasing and adapting the narrative. I'll also ensure consistency with the established characters and context. For his degree. Clara's voice was laced with bitterness. And Margaret made sure he never knew, so he'd only feel indebted to her. I stared at her, the weight of her words settling in. She asked you for money for James's college? 15 grand, Clara said, her tone flat. Said it was for his future, for the family. I paid because I thought it was the right thing. He never knew, and she never mentioned it again. Of course not, I said, my voice tight. If he knew, he might owe someone besides her. Clara leaned closer, her eyes fierce. Emma, your mother has spent your whole life making sure you felt second to James. Now she's livid because you've done something for yourself, something she can't control. Her words cut deeper than I expected. I just wanted her to be proud of me, just once. Oh, sweetheart. Clara's hand found mine, squeezing gently. She is proud of you. That's why she's so threatened. You've built a life without needing her, and she can't stand that you're out of her grasp. I stared into my teacup, the steam curling upward. There's more. I figured as much, Clara said, her voice steady. I told her everything, the flooded basement, the security footage of James with the wrench, the mysterious property complaint, the whispers about my supposed instability. Clara listened, her face darkening with each revelation, not interrupting once, that conniving little snake, as she said when I finished, her voice low and venomous. And Margaret was in on it. I'd bet my china set she was the one on the phone with him. I saw his lips say, "It's taken care of," ere I confirmed. Her voice was faint, but I'd know it anywhere. Clara stood, pacing the room, her hands balled into fists. 40 years I've watched that woman twist everything she touches. But this is beyond manipulation. This is criminal. I have proof, I said quietly, good. She stopped, turning to face me, her eyes blazing. What are you going to do with it? I'm not sure yet, I admitted. Clara sat back down, her voice softening. Can I tell you something about your mother? Something I should have told you ages ago? I nodded, bracing myself. When you were born, she was furious, Clara said, choosing her words with care. Not at you, but at the shift you brought. James was her golden boy, her perfect child. Then you came along, and you were different. Quiet, thoughtful, watching everything. You didn't cling to her like he did. You were independent, even as a toddler, and that scared her. She couldn't control you the way she could him. I swallowed hard, the tea suddenly tasting bitter. I never thought she saw me that way. She did, and she still does, Clara said. Your strength, your independence, it's a mirror to her own failures. And now, with this house, you've shown you don't need her at all. That's why she's lashing out, through James, through this sabotage. I set my cup down, my hands trembling. What do I do, Clara? Confront them? Go to the police? The insurance company is already sniffing around, and that property complaint, someone's trying to force me out. Clara leaned forward, her voice steady as steel. You've got the footage, Emma. That's power. You could take it to the authorities, and they'd have a field day with James's little stunt. Vandalism, property damage, it's serious. But you need to think strategically. If you go that route, it's public, messy, and they'll fight dirty. Margaret's got a knack for twisting narratives. So what then? I asked, feeling the weight of it all. You could play their game, as she said, a glint in her eye. Let them think you're cornered. Let James make his offer to buy the house. Then you hit them with the evidence, not publicly, but privately. Show them you know, and make it clear you're not selling. Demand they cover the repairs. If they refuse, then you go to the police. But you hold the cards here, Emma. I nodded slowly, the plan taking shape in my mind. They expect me to crumble. Exactly, Clara said. They've underestimated you your whole life. Use that. Let them think they're winning, then turn the tables. I exhaled, feeling a spark of resolve. I've spent 10 years building this life. I'm not letting them take it. That's my girl, Clara said, her smile fierce. You're tougher than they'll ever know. Now, let's have another scone, and we'll figure out your next move. So, she decided I wasn't worth her effort, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. No, Emma, Clara corrected, her tone fierce. She decided you were a threat. Even as a baby, you were different from James. You slept through the night sooner, walked earlier, spoke in full sentences before he did. Every milestone you hit showed her you wouldn't depend on her forever. Tears stung my eyes. So she made sure I knew I wasn't the favorite. She made sure you knew your place, Clara said, her voice like iron. And your place was always to prop up James. But you broke that mold. You got an education, landed a solid job, bought a house, all on your own. You proved you didn't need her approval to thrive. And now she's trying to tear you down because if you succeed without her, what does that say about James? He's 28, still begging her for money. My phone buzzed, a text from James. We need to talk. Can you come over tonight? I showed Clara the message. Don't go, as she said instantly. Whatever they're scheming, it's not good. I have to face them eventually. Not alone, you don't. Clara stood, her jaw set. I'm coming with you. Clara, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She crossed the room, grabbing her purse. I've watched Margaret manipulate you for over 30 years and stayed quiet, thinking it was family business. But this is war. She pulled a small digital recorder from her bag. What's that for? I asked. Insurance, as she said, tucking it away. If they want to talk, we'll have every word. I didn't go to James's that night. Instead, I called my coworker Ethan. Emma, it's past 9. You okay? I need a big favor, I said, name it. You still know that guy in family law? A pause. Yeah, Lucas. Why? I need advice on recording laws, property damage, and fraud. Jesus, Emma, what's going on? I spilled everything, the basement, the footage, the property complaint. When I finished, Ethan was silent for a long moment. You need to talk to Lucas tomorrow. But Emma, don't do anything reckless tonight. Define reckless. Don't confront them. Don't threaten them. Just keep documenting and let the law handle it. The law's slow, Ethan. They won't stop. Promise me you'll wait. I promise. I hung up and immediately started working on my presentation. The next morning, I met Lucas at a downtown cafe. He was younger than I'd pictured, with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. Ethan gave me the rundown, he said, settling into the booth. You've got video of your brother damaging your property. Clear as day? I showed him the footage on my phone. He watched it twice, jotting notes. This is textbook criminal property damage. If Margaret was involved, it's likely conspiracy. The property complaint could be harassment or attempted fraud. What are my options? Legally, file a police report, press charges, sue for damages. He looked up, studying me. But you're not just asking about legal options, are you? I didn't respond. Emmer, I get it. Family betrayal stings. But if you're planning some kind of payback, you need to be careful. Document everything, stay legal, and don't give them leverage to turn this on you. What if I just told the truth to the rest of the family? Truth isn't defamation, he said. As long as you're factual, you can share what happened with anyone. I left the cafe with a plan brewing. That afternoon, I called my cousin Victoria. Emma, how's the new house? That's why I'm calling. I want to invite everyone for a proper housewarming dinner this Sunday. That sounds lovely. When? Sunday at 5. I'm making it special, a slideshow about the house, the whole process. You know how Aunt Clara loves family memories. She'll adore that. Should I bring anything? Just yourselves. And Victoria, make sure everyone comes. James, Lily, Margaret. I want the whole family there. Things seemed tense at Clara's birthday. You sure? This is about bringing us together. After hanging up, I spent the week gathering evidence. Ethan helped me pull screenshots of texts between James and Lily. His friend at the phone company owed him a favor. Lily had been chatty with her sister. James says Emma's house will be ours once she's forced to sell. She can't afford the repairs. James had texted a buddy, Mike. Basement plan worked like a charm. Mom was right about hitting the pipe in multiple spots. They're not subtle, Ethan said, pointing at his laptop. Arrogance makes people careless, I replied, scrolling through more messages. Saturday night, I edited the slideshow. It started innocently, photos of me painting walls, hanging shelves, arranging furniture, set to upbeat music. Halfway through, the tone darkened. The security footage appeared abruptly. James entering my basement, phone in hand, speaking to Margaret on speaker. You sure about this? He asked. Her voice came through clearly, as she won't find out. And if she does, what's she going to do? Call the cops on her family? Hit the pipe near the joints, 3 spots, make it look natural. The footage showed him striking the pipe with a wrench, 3 deliberate hits. It's done, he said. Should start leaking soon. Margaret's voice replied, good. Maybe this'll remind her family comes first. I added the text screenshots next, each one a damning piece of their plot to force me out. The final slide read, family comes first. But whose family? Sunday morning, I cleaned until the house gleamed. I cooked all day, roast beef, creamy mashed potatoes, glazed carrots, fresh rolls. The dining table was set with my grandmother's china, candles glowing softly. At 5 p.m., they arrived, Victoria and her husband, Uncle Thomas and his wife, Aunt Clara, who gave me a knowing nod as she handed me a bottle of wine. Everything set? She whispered. Everything. I replied. James and Lily arrived late, Margaret trailing them. They complimented the house, the food, the warm ambience. James even hugged me. This is great, Emma. Nice to be together. Absolutely, I said, smiling. I've got something special planned after dinner. Oh? Margaret raised an eyebrow. A slideshow about the house. I thought you'd all enjoy the journey. Love that, Victoria said. Family presentations are my favorite. Dinner was almost perfect. James shared work stories, Lily flaunted her engagement ring, and Margaret even praised my cooking, first time in years. I kept my smile steady. All right, everyone, I said, clearing dessert plates. Time for the main event. Grab your drinks and head to the living room. They settled in, wine glasses in hand, as I dimmed the lights and started the projector. This is a story about family, I began, about building a home and the people who are supposed to stand by you. I pressed play. The first half was charming, photos of me sanding floors, choosing paint, arranging furniture. Everyone smiled, murmured approval. Emma, you've done wonders, Victoria said. The kitchen's gorgeous, Uncle Thomas added. James lounged, arm around Lily. Margaret sipped her wine, looking almost proud. It gets better, I said, my voice steady. The music turned somber. Photos shifted to the flooded basement. Gasps rippled through the room. What happened? Victoria asked. Water damage, I said. But here's the interesting part. The security footage began. James appeared, sneaking into my basement, phone to his ear. The room froze. Yeah, I'm here, his voice echoed. Where do I hit it? Margaret's voice answered. Near the joints, 3 spots. Make it look natural. Lily's hand flew to her mouth. On screen, James pulled the wrench and struck the pipe, 3 precise hits. It's done, he said. Should leak soon. Margaret's voice. Good. Maybe this'll teach her family comes first. I paused the video. The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of the projector. James stood. Emma, I can explain. Sit down. Clara snapped. Let her finish. There's more, I said, advancing to the text screenshots. Lily to her sister. Emma's house will be ours once she's forced to sell. James to Mike. Mom was right about the pipe. Worked perfectly. Margaret to her book club. Emma's unstable. Can't handle the house. Victoria stared, horrified. You planned this? And the property complaint, I said, clicking to the final slide. Filed anonymously, I said, pointing to the final slide, but the IP address traces back to James's apartment. You traced an IP address? Uncle Thomas asked, his voice a mix of shock and admiration. I have friends who know tech, I replied. Lily was sobbing now, her hands covering her face. James, how could you do this to your own sister? It wasn't supposed to go this far, James muttered, his voice hollow. She wasn't supposed to find out. That makes it okay? Victoria snapped, her eyes blazing. Margaret found her voice, standing abruptly. Emma, turn this off. Now. Why? Embarrassed? I asked, keeping my tone even. You're humiliating your family in front of everyone. I'm showing them who you really are, I said. You sabotaged my home because I wouldn't fund James's wedding. We're your family. Margaret shouted, her face flushed. We raised you, loved you. You destroyed my property because you wanted money for a party. I shot back. Was I supposed to live in a flooded basement? Clara rose slowly, her presence commanding. Margaret, I've watched you manipulate Emma for over 30 years. But this? She gestured at the screen. This is criminal. Stay out of this, Clara, and Margaret hissed. No, Clara said, her voice like steel. You wrecked her home, filed false complaints, spread lies about her mental health, all for your precious boy's fancy wedding. James was pale, his hands gripping the couch. It was supposed to be minor damage. Just enough to, a minor? I laughed, the sound bitter. $7,500 in repairs is minor? And you were going to help fix it after I sold you the house at a loss? Lily's sobs grew louder. I didn't know, as she choked out. I swear, I didn't know you'd do this. But you knew about the plan to buy my house cheap, I said, clicking to her texts. You were thrilled about it. I thought it was just a deal, as she cried. Not this. Ruining my home is a deal? I asked, my voice cutting. Uncle Thomas cleared his throat. Emma, what do you want to do about this? I looked around, at James, avoiding my eyes, at Margaret, clutching her wine glass like a lifeline, at Lily, mascara streaking her face, at my extended family, seeing the truth for the first time. I want them to understand something, I said quietly. I worked 10 years for this house. 10 years of long hours, cheap meals, worn-out clothes. I saved every penny for something that was mine, something no one could take. And you, James, took a wrench to my dream because your wedding was more important. You filed complaints to force me out. You spread rumors to make people think I was unstable. We're family, Margaret said, her voice trembling. No, I said, standing. Family lifts you up, not tears you down. I picked up a manila envelope from the coffee table. These are copies of everything, the footage, the texts, the complaint, the insurance fraud evidence. What are you doing with those? James asked, his voice barely audible. I smiled, cold and steady. That's the fun part. I pulled out the papers. One copy goes to the police, criminal property damage, conspiracy, false reports. James's face drained of color. Another to my insurance company. They are very interested in intentional damage. Insurance fraud's a felony, by the way. Margaret lunged for the envelope, but Clara stepped in front of her. Sit down, Margaret. And this, I continued, holding up another set, it goes to the housing authority. They don't take kindly to fake complaints meant to manipulate city resources. You're destroying your family, Margaret said, her voice breaking. No, you destroyed it when you decided my life was less important than James's party. Lily was hyperventilating. James, do something. What am I supposed to do? He snapped. She has it all on video. You could try apologizing, Victoria said, her tone icy. Though it's a bit late. I'm sorry, James said, the words rushing out. Emma, I'm so sorry. It was stupid. I was desperate. Desperate for what? A bigger venue? I asked. Lily wanted. He started. Don't you dare blame me. Lily screamed. You said Emma was selfish, that she owed you. She does owe us. Margaret shouted. We raised her, fed her, gave her a home. For 18 years, I said, my voice calm but firm. I've been on my own for 14 years since. I don't owe you anything. Uncle Thomas shook his head. Margaret, how did you think this would end? She was supposed to sell the house and help her brother, Margaret said. That's what family does. Family doesn't commit crimes, Clara said. Family doesn't destroy each other's homes. It was just a pipe. Margaret snapped. It was my home. I shouted, my control slipping. The first thing I ever owned, and you ruined it because you couldn't stand that I succeeded without you. The room exploded. James argued with Lily. Margaret screamed at Clara. Victoria was texting, probably sharing the chaos with her husband. I walked to the kitchen, returning with another envelope. There's more, I said, loud enough to cut through the noise. Everyone froze. The basement wasn't your only plan, was it? I pulled out more papers. Rumors about my mental health. Calls to my workplace claiming I'm unstable. An anonymous tip to my mortgage lender questioning my income. James's mouth fell open. How did you? Phone records, email traces, office security footage of you in the lobby talking to my boss. I smiled. You really thought I wouldn't figure it out? Emma, we can fix this, Margaret pleaded. We'll make it right. How? By paying for the damage? Retracting the lies? Giving me back my peace of mind? We'll cover everything, James said. Repairs, deductibles, anything. With what money? I asked. You're broke. That's why you wanted my house in the first place. Lily stood, shaking. I can't do this. James, I'm leaving. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. Lily, wait. James called, chasing after her. The front door slammed, followed by the sound of a car peeling away. Look what you've done, Margaret said to me. You've ruined his engagement. I ruined it. I laughed, sharp and humorless. He ruined it when he wrecked my home. Clara stood, her voice cutting through. Margaret, you've poisoned this family for decades because Emma didn't need you like James does. Now you've crossed into crimes because you can't handle her success. She's not successful, she's selfish. Margaret spat. She bought a house with her own money, Victoria snapped. How is that selfish? James returned, defeated. She's gone. Won't answer her phone. Good, I said. She deserves better than this family. Emma, please, James said, tears in his eyes. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. I'll confess to the police. I looked at my brother, the boy I'd shielded from playground bullies, helped with math homework, lent money to countless times. The worst part? I said softly. I would have helped you. If you just asked honestly, explained your situation, I'd have found a way to contribute to the wedding. You would have? He asked, voice breaking. Of course. You're my brother. But instead, you tried to destroy my life to get what you wanted. I picked up a certified letter from the mantel. This is a restraining order. You're not allowed within 500 feet of my house or workplace. I held up another document. And this is a civil lawsuit for damages, emotional distress, and punitive damages. My lawyer thinks we can get triple damages since it was intentional. Margaret was crying now. You're destroying your family. No, Margaret. You destroyed it when you decided I was worth less than James. I'm just making sure everyone knows. I turned to my extended family. Thank you for coming. I think you've seen enough. They left quietly. Uncle Thomas squeezed my shoulder. Victoria hugged me tightly. Clara lingered last. I'm proud of you, she whispered. It's about time someone stood up to her. Alone in my living room, surrounded by the evidence of my family's betrayal, the house was silent except for my steady breathing. For the first time in weeks, I felt unburdened. 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find James on my porch, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Emma, please. Can we talk? You're violating the restraining order, I said, keeping the door half closed, my phone in hand. I know. I don't care. I need to tell you something. You have 2 minutes. Margaret's in the hospital, he said, his voice cracking. Stress-induced heart episode. She collapsed at work yesterday. She's asking for you. I froze. I'm sure she is. Emma, I know what we did was unforgivable, but she's scared. The doctors say the stress from the legal mess is making it worse. I stared at him through the gap. So you want me to drop the charges to make her feel better? I want you to see her, just once. Let her apologize. She had 3 weeks to apologize. She hired a lawyer instead. That was my idea, he said, running his hands through his hair. I thought we could fight it. I was wrong, about everything. Yes, you were. Lily left me, he said. Victoria told me. Said she couldn't marry someone who'd hurt his own sister. She's right, I said. I've lost everything, James whispered, tears streaming down his face. My fiancé, my relationship with you, Mom's health, all for a wedding that's never happening. You didn't lose it, I said. You threw it away. I know. He wiped his eyes. I keep replaying it, how I looked up to you when we were kids, how you always had my back. And I repaid you by wrecking the thing you worked hardest for. Why did you do it? I asked, my voice steady, and Mom convinced me you owed us. Said you were selfish, that family comes first. She made it sound like you were betraying us by not helping. And you believed her. I wanted to, he admitted. It was easier than admitting I was a 28-year-old man who couldn't afford his own wedding. I was ashamed, and instead of facing it, I let her make you the villain. You took a wrench to my basement, James. I know. I see your face when you found the damage, and I hate myself for it. I studied him. The arrogance was gone, the entitlement stripped away. He looked broken, older than his years. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't deserve anything. I just want you to know I'm sorry, truly sorry. And if seeing Mom would give you closure, or help her, maybe it's worth thinking about. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Margaret's asking for you. I'm at the hospital if you want to come. Someone needs to keep her from manipulating the nurses. I almost smiled. That sounded like Clara. I'll think about it, I said. Thank you, James whispered. But the charges stand, I added. And the lawsuit. He nodded, defeated. I understand. The lawsuit stands, I said, my voice firm. What you did was criminal, and I'm not dropping it because Margaret's sick. James nodded, his shoulders slumping. I understand. I wouldn't expect you to. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you, for the house, for standing up to us, for everything. I should have said it years ago. After he left, I sat at my kitchen table, sipping coffee, my mind churning. My phone rang. Ethan, hey, I said, how you holding up? He asked. James just came by. Yeah. Margaret's in the hospital. He wants me to visit her. You going too? I sighed. I don't know. Part of me wants to see if she'll actually apologize. Part of me thinks it's another manipulation. What's your gut saying? I thought for a moment. That I need to see this through, one way or another. Want me to drive you? Actually, yeah. That'd help. An hour later, we were navigating the sterile hospital corridors. Clara met us at the elevator, her expression grim. She's stable, as she said without preamble. But she's been asking for you non-stop. Fair warning, she's still Margaret. Don't expect a miracle. I'm not expecting anything, I said, good. That's the safest way to handle her. We reached room 314. Margaret lay propped up in bed, looking frailer than I'd ever seen her, her face etched with lines I hadn't noticed before. When she saw me, her eyes welled up. Emma, you came. I came, I said, pulling a chair beside her bed. I'm sorry, as she said, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry for everything. Are you? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Or are you sorry you got caught? She was silent for a long moment, her gaze dropping to her hands. Both, I think. I'm sorry I hurt you, but I'm also sorry my plan failed. The honesty caught me off guard. I spent decades trying to control you, and you never let me. I resented that, your independence, your success, the way you built a life without needing anyone. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because I needed to be needed, as she said. With James, I was the hero, fixing his problems, giving him money, making his life work. But you never needed saving. It made me feel useless. So you created a crisis to force me to need you, I said, the pieces clicking into place. Yes, as she admitted, her voice breaking. It was cruel and wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, Emma. I just want you to know I see it now, how I failed you as a mother. I looked at her hand clutching mine, the same hand that had guided James to ruin my basement. I forgive you, Margaret, I said slowly. But I don't trust you. And the charges stand. I know, she said, nodding. I wouldn't either, in your shoes. She managed a weak smile. The house is beautiful, by the way. Even after the repairs. I love living there, I said, I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. I am. Finally. We sat in quiet for a few minutes, the weight of years between us settling into something softer, if not healed. Then she squeezed my hand. Will you come back? Maybe, I said. If you keep being honest. I'll try, she said. I stood. Margaret, next year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving at my house. You're invited, if you want to come. I'd like that, she said, her voice small, good. But you're bringing dessert. I'm not cooking everything. She laughed, a real, fragile laugh. Deal. As I left the hospital with Ethan and Clara, a lightness settled in my chest. Not because everything was fixed, but because I'd stopped carrying the weight of fixing what was never mine to mend. So, Ethan said as we climbed into his car, how's it feel to win? I thought about it. Like I can finally go home. And I did. To my house, with my mortgage, my repaired basement, and my security cameras. To the life I'd built with my own hands, my own sweat, my own money. To a home no one could take from me. Some victories aren't about tearing others down. They're about building something so strong that no one can break you. I unlocked my front door and stepped inside. The house smelled of fresh paint and promise.